I'd like to call to order the New York City Transit Committee meeting. Let's get started with our public safety announcements, please.
Your safety is of foremost importance to the MTA. Therefore, we ask that you listen to the following instructions. In the event of an emergency, notify emergency personnel in the room and 911 should be called. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell A just across the main hallway or stairwell D down the hallway past the elevators. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. Thank you and have a safe day.
Thank you. Let's move on to our public speakers, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, President Davey. Welcome to the Transit Committee public comment session. Today we have 25 members of the public registered to speak. As a reminder to all public speakers, please adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you when you have 30 seconds left to conclude your remarks. Today our first speaker will be Lisa Daglian, followed by Chris H.
Hi, good morning. I'm Lisa Daglian, Executive Director of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA PCAC. Next week is Halloween, but instead of being treated to a smoother, faster trip, riders on the BX12 were tricked into thinking that some curbside paint was going to sweeten their lives. Simply put, they were pranked. The vision of cars and trucks firmly parked in the clearly painted BX12 bus lanes are not apparitions. They're the real deal. It's time for Mayor Adams and Commissioner Rodriguez to admit it. Their arguments against a busway on Fordham Road were all hollow. They painted themselves into a corner. At some points, BX12 buses crawl at less than 4 miles an hour. That's literally slower than a chicken and many of the Bronx Zoo animals. It's time for the city to stop balking and make real progress for the tens of thousands of daily BX12 riders who are looking for a faster trip, not a slower slog. In fact, riders across the city deserve to move faster than chickens. We appreciate the work that you do at Transit, together with transit workers, to move people quickly and safely around time. Now it's time for the city to meet the Streets Plan mandate. Riders need to know they'll have reliable transit when congestion pricing comes online next year and during the increasingly common 100-year storms we're seeing. Investing in our subways and bus networks means enhancing resiliency for the future, but it also means ensuring the means to traverse the rails and roadways is unimpeded. For buses, that means busways and bus lanes, not empty paint cans and empty promises. It's rewarding to see riders getting back on board. They should be rewarded with faster, more reliable trips. Not everyone lives near a subway. Buses are the workhorse of the transit system. They should be going as fast as thoroughbreds, not left in the painted dust by chickens. I also just want to give a shout out to my booth agent this morning, Troy Knights, who was really helpful on the 7 line during the meltdown, and to Demetrius and Frank for being so responsive, and also to the assistance that we received from Shirley Hudson for helping out with the situation at Grand Central. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Chris H., followed by Tasha Larabors.
Good morning. Hope you can hear me. I'm here specifically to speak on the on-demand e-hail pilot of the Access-a-Ride program, which I have no idea what's going on with now. It makes no sense, the changes that have been made to the program, a program that, from every which way that I've heard, is cheaper than standard Access-a-Ride. Standard Access-a-Ride, which I thought was $65, from federal, state funding, et cetera, to subsidize a trip for a person on a primary service is now, I've been told, is $115 or thereabouts. Meanwhile, a taxi ride for the average trip for a person taking Access-a-Ride in distance is about $35 to $40. So when the original program was instituted, it made complete sense to me. It's saving money for the MTA. But now I'm being told that it's costing too much. So they've changed the program, quote unquote, phase 2. And now it's even whittled down even more to where the Access-a-Ride program is basically a coupon towards current surge price-based programs like Uber and Lyft, in which if I had a doctor's appointment at 9:45 a.m., I could be paying out of pocket $16, $28 out of pocket. The Access-a-Ride was meant to be the same price as everyone else, non-discriminatory. It's supposed to be someone get on the train for $2.90, someone take Access-a-Ride the same amount. Now it is higher now. I pay as a disabled person more than someone taking the train or the bus. That cannot continue. Even fair fares, which HRA says is applicable to the paratransit program. All paratransit, MTA no longer acknowledges exists. They no longer apply it to phase 2. It's applied to phase 1. You can pay a half fare. Now you can't. It seems criminal to me. I think the controller or the DA should look into this when private contractors are making money off Access-a-Ride, and now it's even less now, less service. It seems like
Please
these
conclude your
efforts seem to be
remarks.
designed to end the program people need.
Please conclude your remarks.
I just predominantly use this program for medical appointments, and I now have to make my appointments if they exist at 3 in the morning, because and that's going to be $4
Please
minimum.
conclude your remarks. Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker will be Tasha Larabors, followed by John Padula.
Good morning. My name is Tasha Larabors. I work for Center for Independence of the Disabled, New York. I'm also an Access-a-Ride user. I'm here to once again talk about phase 2, just paratransit altogether. Phase 2, from a lot of stories that I've been hearing from consumers, common thing I've heard is in terms of affordability. A lot of consumers, number of consumers I've spoken with had no choice but to go back to regular Access-a-Ride because they cannot afford phase 2. A number of consumers have decided to apply for fair fares. As I said, affordability. It's not really being realistic about the challenges a lot of the consumers are facing. As for Access-a-Ride, regular Access-a-Ride itself, once again, as I've mentioned multiple times before, training for the drivers. I can't count how many times I have witnessed situations with drivers, between the drivers and consumers, the behavior of the drivers. Also, even the behavior of some of the consumers that I've been in the vehicle with. So as I said, I don't know how many times I have to repeat myself in terms of communicating with the passengers. I've spoken to a lot of seniors who do not know anything about all these changes in terms of Access-a-Ride. So as I said before, please communicate with everyone. Better communication. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be John Padula, followed by Matthew Bookies Highland.
There we go. Good morning, folks. My name is John Padula from New York City Public Schools. You know, repeating yourself. And like I said last month, I feel like a broken record. I was a DJ for many years, besides being an educator for many years. And there's nothing worse than a broken record. And we all come here and we say the same crap month after month. I'm bored of it. I don't look forward to doing this. I pride myself on being a good teacher, as a DJ, to entertain. How do you keep people engaged? I come here, I say the same nonsense every month. Everybody else comes here, says the same crap. And you guys have to just sit there and act like statues, and I get it, because you work for an agency, but it's the same crap. even quietly, behind closed doors, you guys have to say to yourselves, enough's enough. This is criminal. This isn't right. How are you treating people like this? How is this dignity? How is this respect? It's 2023, and we're New York. We're New York City. We should be bigger and better than everyone else. We should be setting the example. This is disgusting, folks. Disgusting. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to be a civil servant for this city that does this. Rich, last month I asked about the 20-minute window. Where is it? I want an update. Phase 3 needs to be meaningful. Chris, God bless you. They couldn't put enough zeros on your paycheck, brother, for me to take your job. You guys need to enable this man to do his job and to make a difference because he does care. But enough's enough. If freedom is the ability to choose, then equity is that path to freedom. Take your heads out of your back pockets and get stuff done.
Our next speaker is Matthew Bucky's Highland, followed by Ian Matthews.
You almost got it right. It's actually pronounced Bucky's. But anyway, good afternoon. Good morning, actually, to Chairwoman Mahaltis and to President Davey and to the ladies and gentlemen of the committee and staff. I want to speak today about the opportunity about the subways and buses. No, not just the subways, on elevators. Its goal is to reach 95% by 2055. But I'm hoping we can reach 100% by then at the time being. Look, I like the announcement when they say, this is an accessible station. The elevator's at the center of the platform. Like that. It would be nice for every subway station to have an elevator for people who have disabilities to take any station they want to go to and any train they would like. Thank you. Good day, and God bless you. Miss Catino?
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Ian Matthews, who will be followed by Elizabeth Valdez.
Good morning. I'm here to talk about the mess of the E and F trains during the midday hours. Some of the trains that are operating local in Queens are not having the proper signage saying it's Queens Boulevard local, making it very confusing, and sometimes you can't even hear the announcements. And sometimes none of the conductors even make an announcement, and that's ridiculous. They need to be trained properly and make sure they're aware of the schedule and the program. So because I saw it over the weekend and I was very disappointed. Also, nothing is done with the people who are up to no good at holding open the emergency exit door at the Bedford Park Boulevard and 204th entrance on the B and D lines. That's another big problem. And also, when you suspend the 7 train on weekends like you did this past weekend between Queens and you should consider having the Long Railroad cross Sutter, because like now it goes to Grand Central Madison. Why not? And you should also add more N trains. There were not enough N trains this weekend, and there were dangerous overcrowding conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Elizabeth Valdez, who will be followed by Yolanda Elian.
Good morning. I'm Elizabeth Valdez from the Brooklyn Center for the Independence of the Disabled. If you're new to the committee, you may not know that we like to come to the October meeting with a Halloween theme. In fact, whether it's Halloween or not, Access to Right riders have testified at virtually every meeting since 2017 about how much of a treat it was to finally get decent service from Access to Ride through the on-demand pilot. But now you've tricked us. You revised the program so it's much worse. Or as our posters say, on-demand is a skeleton for what it used to be. Instead of a reliable program that we could use to get around the city, just like subway or bus riders can, you now restricted how far we can go and how often. And you raised the fare to $4, so many riders cannot afford it. So as this poster says, rest in peace, decent on-demand accessoride service. You also keep boasting about your approval ratings for regular accessoride, but your own data on the Parrot Transit dashboard reveals something else. For example, about 1 in 5 broker rides are about 15 minutes late. Complaints continue to be high as well. That's hardly a record to be proud of. Sometimes the brokers don't even show up, as our poster says, accessoride, stop ghosting riders, show up on time. Finally, it's more than a year since we settled 2 landmark lawsuits with the MTA that will make virtually the entire subway system accessible by 2055. But you still refuse to settle our elevator maintenance suit. Instead, you've got the same $1,000 an hour lawyers, Paul Wise, wasting taxpayers' money and our time fighting the case. It's ridiculous, and you should be embarrassed. Settle our lawsuits. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Yolanda Aline, followed by Michael Ring. Yolanda A., if I'm pronouncing your last name wrong?
Yes, I'm coming.
Oh, thank you.
I'm operating at 2 speeds, stop and slow.
Take your time. Following Yolanda will be Michael Ring and then David Kupferberg.
Good morning. I usually talk about Accessoride, but this morning I'm not talking about Accessoride. I have to give Demetrius a compliment because I told him about the nasty handles going on the Atlantic Avenue on the L line, and they cleaned it up, and senior was able to hold on to the handrails when they're coming down the steps. So compliments to him. But I have another thing for him, that on Atlantic Avenue, on the L train, they have a habit of not stopping on Atlantic Avenue so people can transfer to the Long Island Railroad. Because they do 105, Livonia, and then Broadway Junction. That's unfair to those people that get on that train to go to Atlantic Avenue to catch the Long Island Railroad. Now I'm dealing with the young man that does the buses. On Utica Avenue, from the Eastern Parkway to Union Street, all these dollar vans are taking up spots. The buses cannot get to the curb, and seniors and disabled people cannot get on the bus because guess what? They can't get to the curb because of all these these dollar vans parked in the bus stops from Eastern Parkway to Union Street on that bus lane. So the B-17 can't turn, so it held up traffic because the B-46 is there. Then on the B-35, both sides of the street between East 16th Street and 96th Street, there's nothing but double parked cars on both sides, trucks, everything. So then the buses run like banana in bunches. We don't buy bananas, we buy bananas to eat, not buses to run in bunches like bananas. I still have more for you, but I'm almost done. I'll see you after the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don't forget, I'll be with Accessoride as I call it, and everybody knows it, on Wednesday.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michael Ring, who will be followed by David Kupferberg and then Charlton D'Souza.
Hi, my name is Michael Ring. For those who need a visual description, I got a green hat and a green hoodie that says Disabled in Action, and I'm a handsome white guy that needs a shave. I'm holding up a sign that says Rest in Peace, Decent On-Demand Accessoride Services. I was in phase 1 of the on-demand program. It had its faults. The drivers got paid less, so they didn't really want to come pick us up when things were busy. Dealt with that. Phase 2 doesn't really work if you have a job. It's a limited amount of distance you can travel and a limited times of every month you can go, which is great if you have appointments or if you want to visit your family. But if you have a full-time job and have to travel 5 days a week, that's a lot of trips, and the on-demand program won't do that. And as everyone knows, when you go to work, you cannot prearrange when you're going to leave your job. You guys all work regularly, and you go home when it's time to go home. You can't say, I have to leave because my ride is outside. It just doesn't work. But there is a sliver of the accessoride program that would work, the taxi reimbursement authorization. Right now, you can request a ride if you say, I'll pay for it myself and I'll get paid back. We're probably saving you guys money by taking a taxi or an Uber, but it only works within your own borough. I live in Park Slope. Getting here from Park Slope is a shorter trip than if I want to go to Canarsie. It's kind of arbitrary to chop the city up into 5 boroughs for accessoride purposes. If you would expand taxi reimbursement, it would allow a lot of people to go to work, and then people with disabilities won't be stuck in their homes. They'll be able to pay taxes because we want to. I mean, that's where we're at. Thanks for your time. I hope we can get this fixed.
Thank you. Our next speaker is David Kupferberg, followed by Charlton D'Souza.
David Kupferberg, Vice President of Bus Advocacy, Passengers United. At the MTA NYCT/Bus Committee meeting on Monday, September 18, 2023, I said that the subway service enhancements this year and next year are a farce. In fact, these enhancements, except for the B train and G train enhancements, would allow a significant amount of subway service to be restored to pre-June 2010 budget crisis levels. I also implied that the Bronx bus network redesign did not make service better because it did not significantly decrease passenger travel time. For this situation, I should either admit I was wrong and apologize or double down. I'm doing the latter. I retire my critique of the BXBNR. Did the Bronx bus network redesign make service better? As that fares were raised and subway service is being enhanced, so should bus service, especially in the Bronx. What I am proposing closes service gaps, expands service to transit deserts, and do both without negatively impacting the core network. Please take me seriously and read it with an open mind. For the Riverdale and Boston Avenue and Boston Road corridors, I wish for New York City Transit and Westchester County B-Line to be on the same page regarding each of their redesign efforts. I think there is room for compromise. Institutional issues could be resolved. In my capacity as VP of Bus Advocacy, I wish to help facilitate this process. Because when there is consensus and compromise, everybody wins. Please reply to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Charlton D'Souza, followed by Andy Pollock.
Good afternoon, everyone. Charlton D'Souza, President of Passengers United. So a few weeks ago, about 5 weeks ago, I was at the 28th Street subway station overnight, and we were there doing a patrol with the member, and we were out there, and I was with the reporter. And what did we see? We saw an EDP who was throwing a chair. He had the service gate open. He was being very disruptive. We called the police so we could get him to a hospital. What did the police do? They told him to leave the station, and that was it. An ambulance came, but the cops did not, suggest that he go to the hospital. They just asked him, do you want to go to the hospital? He said no. And this was an EDP with no shirt on in the pouring rain in the cold. So what is the plan for the homeless this winter? We've had a lot of incidents. There was a pushing incident at 5th Avenue, 53rd Street the other day. What is the plan? Where are these SOS outreach workers that are supposed to be in the subway system, patrolling and helping the homeless, helping the emotionally disturbed people? Right now, there's no caseworkers, no highly trained psychologists to be found in the subway system. So that's a lie, because we're out there overnight riding the trains. We don't see them. So it's unacceptable. And this is why I'm calling on Mayor Eric Adams, Governor Kathy Hochul. You need to keep your promise, and you need to help the homeless and the emotionally disturbed in the subway. We have all this money to help all the migrants that are coming into the country. What about our own homeless? What about our veterans? They need help in the subways. And sleeping in the system is not a plan to keep warm. There has to be drop-in facilities, places where you can take a shower and get food. And who's holding the Bowery Residents Committee accountable at the MTA? They have $1 million contract. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Andy Pollock, who will be followed by Catherine Fazio.
Good morning, Andy Pollock for the record, Passengers United. So let's get right into the 7 train. What happened this morning was completely unacceptable. The fact that the work that was planned this weekend went well into this morning's commute was disastrous. I've heard from people on X this morning that the platforms at the Queensboro Plaza and the Jackson Heights Roosevelt Avenue stations were completely overwhelmed with confusion, chaos, and let's just say a lot of cuss words were said. So I'm telling you, from now on, whenever there is planned work, there needs to be a disclaimer that says, please note, work may linger into Monday morning. All right, so that needs to be addressed. Next issue is Queens Village Bus Depot. What is going on with the Q88? Why are the buses being bunched together on school trips? There's supposed to be a 10-minute gap in service. I see a bunch of Q46 buses and Q27 buses completely bunched together, especially when I commute from Long Island Jewish on Tuesdays. So this needs to change. And I also want to mention on October 9th, when I was coming back from Long Island, I was supposed to take the 3:09 p.m. Q88 trip. I was literally telling the driver, why doesn't College Point Bus Depot share this route? Because Q76 is shared with Queensville. So it's time that College Point Bus Depot steps it up and maybe handles the additional Q88 trips. Because I see way too many Q76 trips heading north on school days. So that's all I'm going to say for this month. Thank you for letting me speak today, Kate, and I hope to speak again next month.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Catherine Fazio, followed by Constance Lesold, then Jean Ryan.
Hello, my name is Catherine Fazio. I'm a poet, and I represented the USA at the 5th World Congress of Poets. I'm also a mental health advocate. I've graduated with that. It's almost a year that I had met John McCarthy, I believe his name, and after I spoke, he came up to me and gave me his card because he liked what I said. Since then, it is a long time. He connected me with somebody by the name of Daniel Randall in Community so that I could tell him how I believed you could save money and this program that we have that helps keep people safe with people like me who have a disability. I had a brain aneurysm and other things that happened to me, and I don't want anybody to be unsafe. And the on-demand program was absolutely excellent. And if you want to work, and like this gentleman was saying with the taxis, we want to be in the community. I know you'll do the right thing. You want to keep us safe. Maybe there are blind spots, but I have seen blind spots. Even up until the last meeting I had at the Brooklyn Library with my council person, that Andy was there from the community affairs. I've been waiting. I asked to speak privately with them because when you see something and you want to say something, you want to know you're saying something to someone who doesn't want you to say what's wrong, because quite frankly, you don't have control of your underground. And that is the bad news. The good news, thank you for all the police down there. I do appreciate that. But there is coding down there that's keeping everyone unsafe. And the last meeting that was here when that person was worried about hate crimes, we need to collectively do this. And together, I think we can. Thank you. You can call me or email me anytime.
Thank you. As a reminder, speakers need to address their remarks to the chair and not make personal, impertinent, insulting, or slanderous statements about members of the MTA board or staff or other members of the public. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Constance Lesold, followed by Jean Ryan, then Bruce Hain.
My name is Constance Lesold. I am a recent client of the Access a Ride program, and I am about to miss my Access a Ride. I don't know what will happen. Most of the time, I'm out half an hour ahead of time waiting, and I have waited for an hour, and I have missed trains to Virginia twice. But I am grateful for the program still. I just think we can improve it. I prefer going on the bus, and if you restore the bus that goes over the Brooklyn Bridge, used to have, I think it was the B-51, I would be able to come that way, and I much prefer the bus. As far as the buses are concerned, we need more of them. I have spoken before about restoring the B-71, going from Red Hook and the waterfront all the way across Park Slope and Crown Heights to Weeksville. That's a culture bus. I hear that the head of the transit, the one that came from London, used to have culture buses and trains in London. We need it here. In Brooklyn, we don't get our share of government funding, and our cultural institutions would much benefit, all of them, and our churches and our schools, by restoring that bus. Thank you very much, and I hope I get on my Access ride to go visit my friend who's in hospice.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jean Ryan, followed by Bruce Hain.
Yeah, you can hold it. I'm Jean Ryan. I'm president of Disabled in Action of Metropolitan New York, DIA for short. On October 1st, 2023 at 6:52 p.m., a Sunday night, I tried to take the X27 express bus at 13th Street and Broadway. The driver was nice, but he did not know how to operate the lift. I had to teach him. He volunteered that he had never before used the lift on an express bus, and he hadn't been trained before. I was incredulous. I said, not even at Zarega, where drivers are trained on buses? No, never. Then why was he driving an express bus at all? I taught him how to use the lift, and eventually I got on the bus. Probably took about 20 minutes instead of 4. He did not know how to move the seats correctly for the wheelchair space, and I did not have enough room for my legs and feet, and the seats ahead of me kept moving and slamming into me. But, finally we got to Bay Ridge, to my stop at Bay Ridge Avenue and 3rd Avenue. There was no traffic, and the trip could not have taken more than 30 minutes. Some people got off the bus at my bus stop, but most stayed on to get to their stops down the line, but the driver could not get me off the bus at all. He did not know what to do. He called his dispatcher. The road crew was supposed to come, but we waited over an hour and no one came. By then, all the passengers had left and found other ways to get home. Finally, the fire department came. Again, some of the firefighters recognized me from March 9th, 2023, when they also had to rescue me from the X28 bus. I had not taken more than 7 express bus trips since that time because I never know what's going to happen. But why don't you send a road crew? I just don't get it, and my wheelchair is not safe being lifted off the bus. It's too dangerous to try to lift it off, and even the firefighters could get hurt.
Your remarks.
So it took me 2.5 hours to get from one bus stop to the other one instead of 30 minutes. That doesn't even make any sense.
Thank you.
But nothing ever happens. And the Almond Park Depot stinks.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Bruce Hain, followed by Alita Dupree.
Well, I don't usually speak at meetings of the MTA proper or the NYCT Transit, but I have a gripe, and I think I can fill in the rest of it with another question or gripe. How come the trip planner doesn't work? I only use a Windows computer. I mean, it started when you changed over to the new website, And it just kept getting gradually worse and worse until the thing is unusable. And I know the exact names of the nomenclature they use to put Sutphin Boulevard square bracket F square bracket, you know. So I don't see what the problem is. I mean, this is just like what other people are talking about. It's inexplicable. You know, the MTA is flush with funds, right? For the first time in my life, you're all talking about how much money you got. So why? Why can't you at least have the trip planner work? Okay, and now I've got another question. Why, if the customary way of doing it would be, if you're going to do track work in the tunnel, through the tunnel to nowhere that now goes somewhere, what is that, 63rd Street? Why don't you do one tube at a time? Because, you know, the F always used to run on the E line, and so it's possible to make it work that way. But if you have one way in the direction that's emphasized during rush hour, you can speed up your service a little bit and have more trains, assuming you don't want to you don't want to run empty trains around. I don't quite know. But
Thank you.
It would be better to do it that way.
Please conclude. Thank you. The next speaker is Alita Dupree, followed by Monique Johnson. Alita, are you still with us?
Thank you. I was waiting for the unmute. Appreciate it. Chair Heidemann Halsis and members. Alita Dupree for the record, she and her with team folds, representing the skirt with the folds. Excuse me, I'm not feeling too good today. I really enjoyed my time in person last month, both with you and out on the system and meeting some of you, and not just in boardroom, but also at the Courtesy Counts press conference in Grand Central Terminal, because you can never have enough Grand Central Terminal. And I generally feel safe on the system. It's not a perfect system. It is painful to acknowledge that things could happen, and I can never minimize that. But I found an antidote that if one is afraid of using the subway, the best antidote is to go out there and use the subway. I am afraid of flying. I am profoundly afraid of flying. And I have flown over 60 times in 2 years. I'm still afraid of flying, and I get on airplanes. So I'm very appreciative to senior staff in helping us to build the best subway that we can. And I did get to use the M60 going to LaGuardia Airport from 125th. And so I got to ride that bus and go over the RFK Bridge and get some practice riding buses to and from the airport. And the work with Omni is important to continue. And yes, JFK AirTrain has Omni now, so this will make it easier. But I hope to see you again and spend some more time on this system that holds to ideals that are legendary and stately that I've used since 1970, and to continue to put positive energy into the system. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Monique Johnson, followed by Jason Anthony.
Good morning. My name is Monique Johnson. And I know you say you don't want us to talk about nothing personal, but I do have something to talk about that is personal. When we had that flood, my daughter was stuck on a train from 7 o'clock a.m. to 3 o'clock p.m. Then when y'all found alternate bus routes for them to take, they was fighting so bad, she didn't want to fight for a seat to get on the bus. So I asked, when things like that, even though we don't know what Mother Nature might bring us, be prepared to have somebody there to escort them people to get on the bus. so there won't be no fighting because everybody was frustrated and angry. Then I want to talk about accessoride. Plenty of time I call accessoride, and the driver come either early or say that he came, and I don't get my ride that day. But then they have nerves to ask me, do you still want the return ride? How would I still want a return ride if I can't even get to my destination? Second thing, I always talk to y'all about CUC, which is communication, unity, and community. Without that, we're never going to solve everything that's going on if we all try to live in our feelings or try to out-top one another. We should come together and solve these things. Because without your community and your unity and your communication, we have nothing. We will be nothing. We will not get nowhere. That's why we are still here every month preaching and asking for y'all to listen to us. Stop standing behind your lawyers and hear your community. Communication, unity, and community works together every time. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Jason Anthony, followed by Cassie Rafusi.
Good morning, Haida, Reg, Demetrius, Frank, Chris, Q, Shanifa over there, and Chief Kemper, of course. Jason Anthony once again. This time, I got affected by the 7 train meltdown this morning, just like Lisa Daglian did. But instead, I couldn't go to class this morning. But anyways, let's talk about a little bit about stress of hell. Why I call it accessorized stress of hell? Because having people waiting 3 hours for a ride to go home, that's no bueno. That's no good. And Rich, we should consider another alternative for the weekend service change that is planned for the weekend before Thanksgiving, because if the meltdown that happened this morning on the 7th could occur that weekend, we should put an alternative that those that use the 7 train on the early morning rush, like Lisa and I, we could get to our destinations with let's say a little bit delay, but having additional shuttle buses to support that alternative. And I would love to see the reports about hate crimes, because since that lately we have been having incidents regarding all types. And lastly, we could love to enjoy Subway Day. That's this Friday, October 27th. So I'll see you later.
Thank you. The next speaker is Cassie Rafusi, followed by Ruth Lowenkron.
Good morning, Commissioner Mahaltis, President Davey, and New York City Transit and Bus Committee members. My name is Cassie Rafushi, and I'm a member of Passengers United. I would like to address a situation which took place on Saturday, October 21st. My friends were not able to get off their Sim 1C bus coming from the Ellingtonville Transit Center on Staten Island due to vehicles blocking the bus stop and also construction. So they had to be dropped off on 6th Avenue and West 15th Street in the middle of the street, which was extremely dangerous. Also, I would really appreciate if this express bus stop located at 6th Avenue and West 14th Street in Manhattan, if any board members or if you, President Davey, can come to this express bus stop in person to see what is happening. This is an ongoing issue and it needs to be addressed immediately. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ruth Lowenkron, followed by Michael Cohen.
Good morning, Ruth Lowenkron, Director of the Disability Justice Program at New York Lawyers for the Public Interest. We are members of the Accessoride Reform Group. I, too, have come here on a regular basis to talk about Accessoride. We pride ourselves on the fact that when Accessorized Reform Group, or ARG, started out, we pushed the MTA to put together its first pilot. It was a wonderful coordination of efforts. And those of you who have been around for a while know that we came out in force regularly to talk about how wonderful Phase 1, now known as Phase 1 of the pilot, was. It was life-altering. Those were actual words that people used on a regular basis. So what went wrong? Why are we changing a life-altering, wonderful program into a program where we're once again all complaining? And what I'd like to really point out, I'd like to bring back what our first speaker talked about, the fact that if you are concerned about costs, and I know you are, you do need to recognize that every accessorized on-demand ride costs far less than half the amount of the other rides. So what is happening? You are saying, well, people like it and are taking more rides, and therefore we're going to cut back on the program. You don't do that elsewhere, and you shouldn't do it here. And what's really important to note is that the Phase 2 pilot, just like the Phase 1 in some regards, is wholly unscientific. So the first program, you took people who were repeat users, active users, and didn't have a wealth of different people, so you really couldn't test what usage was. You've corrected that on Phase 2, many points. You've also added to Phase 2 many more points. But what else have you done? You have done all kinds of horrific things. So just from the mere perspective of a scientific experiment, y'all are failing.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Michael Cohen, and our final speaker will be Deborah Greif.
Hi, I'm Michael Cohen, and I'd like to say that the implementation of the Omni vending machines needs to be sped up. I want to know when the Omni vending machines are going to be working, because they need to make it more available, the Omni card. And I feel that like the bus service needs to be more frequent, and it needs to be offered with all door boarding on all the buses, not just the select. Like have like front and back door boarding on all routes. And also I think that there needs to be an expansion of the bus service to cover more parts of New York City. And I think that there needs to be extended hours for some of the bus routes. And there needs to be, I think it'd be great if the schedules could be kept at the bus stops, because I hear that's proposed to be eliminated. And I think it's important to have both the schedule and the bus time app, so that you can use both to find out when the bus is expected to come and how long it will take until the bus actually arrives. Because I know that's not the best use. I know that will cut back on a lot of paper and a lot of printing, but I think it's important to keep the information available so that bus riders know when to expect the bus and will know like how frequently the bus service runs and have an idea on like what days the bus is running and what time on the schedule. And I think it's important to keep guided ride as well.
Thank you. Today's final speaker will be Deborah Greif.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you, Q, Chris P, and Rich, and everyone. First, I'm going to do my first complaint, and then I'm going to do complimenting. My big complaint is I am sick and tired of cars that like to park in the bus stops. Yes, I know it's a DOT issue, but it's frustrating for the bus drivers, too. they've actually had to do they would come in and curve to get me on, and the car's upset because they're blocking him. Well, too bad. You weren't supposed to be there. He has to get me on safely because I'm not going to lift my walker because, you see, I'm wearing a brace. I have tendinitis. So it's much harder for me to tip and lift. So the drivers have been very cooperative, most of them, to make sure I can get on. But honestly, I like when they take pictures. We take pictures, and we've sent it for them to get ticketed. So that's the bad part. The good part is I do appreciate all the bus drivers that have been lowering, giving me the ramp without asking me, why do I need the ramp? And I'm going to blame Alma Park because they are, and I can tell that I think they put all the horrible drivers onto the express bus because now we have new, younger bus drivers. So when I get on, no one asks me anymore, why do I want the ramp, which I appreciate. I also do feel bad for the accessory drivers in the bus, and I'll tell you why. We're driving, and we're allowed to go on the bus lane. And yet we have these little scooters that nearly cut us off, and more than twice, we've almost had an accident. So I know that we can't do much, but we need to work with the DOT and the police. They need to be ticketed and removed because I am tired. The accessory drivers are also tired. Because instead, we almost would have been not showing up to where we had to. We would have been probably in an accident where one of us had to go to the hospital. Thank you.
Madam Chair, this concludes the public comment session.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all our public speakers. We'll now move on. I now would like to make a motion to approve the minutes for the September 2023 meetings. Second? All those in favor? Aye. Against? Motion carried. Okay. Rich, let's move on with the work plan. Are there any changes?
Yes, the 2024 preliminary budgets for New York City Transit, Staten Island Railway, and the MTA bus will not be presented this month, I believe next month.
Okay, great. You want to start us off with your president's report?
Yeah, thank you. Pull up a brief PowerPoint. So good afternoon, everyone. I think the clock has now struck 12. Since gathering in September, we have been busy at New York City Transit, working hard to deliver our faster, cleaner, and safer service to millions of our daily customers. We've also seen firsthand the remarkable resilience of the entire transit team when, on September 29th, our city experienced biblical rainfall from Tropical Storm Ophelia. In some parts of Brooklyn, over 8 inches of rain fell in a matter of hours while water rushed into our subway system. Over the course of that day, 11 subway lines were either fully or partially suspended. What we saw in response to the storm was just an outstanding response from this team. From customer service agents supporting our riders in their new role out of the booths, to our team at buses, which kept our city moving by maintaining full service above ground, New York City Transit kept going and still carried millions of customers on that Friday. Equally exceptional was the response of the Department of Subways to restore service. From the minute the first train fell, our team was ready to respond, and they worked tirelessly to bring back full service on virtually all subway lines by that Friday evening, with the final 2 lines fully restored early Saturday morning. A heroic effort from our subway workforce, our entire workforce, as always. We also had an opportunity this month to celebrate our workforce. You heard about last month our commitment to improving the employee experience at New York City Transit, and this month we were able to celebrate and thank our employees at both the Department of Buses and Subways. Let me describe each of these pictures for you. First, our bus rodeo returned after a 6-year hiatus, and even on a rainy weekend, nearly 100 bus operators participated at Orchard Beach to show up their skills, both as operators and as maintenance crews. We look forward to cheering on our winners as we send them to, I believe, Portland, Oregon this spring to compete in the National APTA Tournament, where I expect they will all bring home the gold. And a couple weeks ago, Demetrius and the Subways team hosted their first ever, or certainly in recent memory, Family Day at Coney Island. Signups reached capacity with just under 1,000 employees, again on a very rainy weekend. Sadly, I think a running theme for us here in New York City the last couple months. But over 1,000 friends, family, and employees showed up for an incredible day of fun and fellowship. I do want to thank the organizers and Demetrius and his team for bringing out the best of our Subways team. As you can see here, I think Demetrius and Chair Libra with some of our work train folks who use our museum trains. Juxtaposed to this, by the way, was an open gangway car. So we had our oldest and our newest in our fleet for kids and families to enjoy. This month, we also debuted 2 new vehicles at Transit. First, we showed off the future of our Accessoride fleet with the first of 15 new E350 vehicles. These are new vans equipped with the Q strain, I think named after Q, system to improve safety and comfort for our customers in wheelchairs. Congratulations to Chris and the entire paratransit team for this milestone. And on Staten Island, which is sometimes I've been told is people believe it's the forgotten borough, but we proclaimed it the remembered borough last week at New York City Transit when we unveiled our next phase of the R211 deployment. The first 5-car R211S trains made the trip across the Narrows to newly rebuilt Clifton Yard, where we'll enter service in the coming months, replacing the R44 cars that were introduced during the Nixon administration. If you don't understand that reference, I'm happy to have a history lesson after. But we're excited to deliver new cars to Staten Island for the first time in 50 years. And, at the Department of Buses, we continue to make progress on our zero-emission commitment. Last month, Frank Anacaro participated in announcing the first partnership with the New York Power Authority for our charging infrastructure. We often talk about buying buses, but where are we plugging them in? It's an extraordinary investment that we're making in the infrastructure at our bus depots. So we there installed and deployed our first overhead and cable dispensers in 5 bus locations. It's a critical element on our ambitious journey towards sustainability and environmental responsibility, as these will be the lifeline, if you will, of the 60 zero-emission buses arriving next year. Department of Buses is also leading the way toward a cleaner and more sustainable future by contributing to a world where future generations can breathe cleaner air and healthier environment. We also know in the past few years it's been difficult for the bus manufacturing industry in the United States. With the recent news that Nova Bus will be ending its U.S. operations in 2025 and the bankruptcy declaration by Proterra recently, MTA has been considering ways we can ensure that the bus industry remains both healthy and competitive. The Department of Buses and members of the MTA Procurement Department are looking at pre-qualifying new experienced companies to compete for future business with us. Department of Subways and Procurement are also part of a national working group to see if we can streamline bus procurements and develop more national standards so that the specifications aren't so different from agency to agency to agency. Frank and Danny Cardoza are leading that, and I appreciate their work. And Chair Lieber asked me to represent MTA on a recently announced National Bus Task Force working with Chicago Transit President Orville Carter to address the needs for more bus manufacturers in the United States. It's something we're very focused on to ensure that we will meet our commitment by having a zero-emission fleet by 2040. I'll turn it over to Demetrius in just a minute to present our efforts to improve cleanliness in the subway system. Obviously, faster, cleaners. Well, started out as a normal day. No problem. I mean, that sounded more interesting, David. I'm happy to know. For our Faster, Cleaner, Safer program. As you'll hear from Demetrius, is an agency-wide commitment to improve our customer experience with new initiatives underway in subways to provide a clean journey both in our stations and on our concourse. I do want to mention one thing and then address the 7 train issue that's come up, and then we'll turn it over to Demetrius. Earlier this month, we celebrated a major milestone of our station renovation program at Junction Boulevard in Queens, where we unveiled our 50th station enhancement in this initiative. It's been nothing short of a great success, and I'm deeply appreciative of all the hard work that our crews are doing on weekends and night, usually very unheralded work that we don't see, but very appreciative of the work that they're doing. As I said, lastly, I want to address the 7 train issue. I think we put out some information earlier which suggested that it was a GEO that went late or somehow we didn't plan the work appropriately. Not true. What occurred was there was a contractor doing work in the Steinway tube putting conduits up in the tunnel. And at 4 a.m., we ran a test train to ensure that there were no issues. And lo and behold, the conduits were installed inappropriately. The test train actually hit the conduits because they were a little too low. So inches turned into hours for many of our customers here. And as a 7 train rider, I got every alert because I'm signed up for those. So we will get to the bottom of this with our colleagues in C&D, but suffice to say, we do lots of work on the weekends, and we come back to rush hour service on Monday morning almost always without issues. In this case, that wasn't the case, so whether it was the contractor, whether it was design work, whether it was our construction manager, we will get to the bottom of it. I spoke to Jamie earlier, and we're committed to do that on behalf of our customers. But in this instance, this was not a plan. It was a faulty installation, and as I said, inches cost hours. So we'll get to the bottom of that. With that, Demetrius, I'll turn it over to you and maybe some others from the Subways team for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. As Rich mentioned this month, I'm going to provide an update on the incredible work that's being done by this Subways team to improve the cleanliness of the system, as well as the renovation program for both stations and employee facilities. Clean is one of the key pillars to our faster, cleaner, and safer plan to improve customer satisfaction. We know from the surveys that cleanliness is one of the most important attributes to our customers, and improving the customer environment is key to that. It leads to higher satisfaction and also promotes growing ridership. At the same time, we're focused on improving the employee environment to ensure our team feels valued. We can't do one without the other. Let's start by discussing some of the strategies that we've applied across all subways in improving our cleaning programs. First was increasing the staff by almost 1,000 new positions across stations and car cleaning. Most of the staffing replaced contractors that were used during the pandemic to bring this important function back fully under Subway's control. Our HR training and operations team have done an incredible job of bringing in so many employees within such a short period of time. But this presented a unique opportunity for us. So many new employees presents the opportunity to change culture, to shift the culture of the organization. So in order to do so, we refresh all of our training programs that cleaning personnel are required to take to reinforce the importance of cleaning and how to perform those tasks safely and efficiently. We've also established cleaning standard guides to be handed out to employees. The guide provides clear visuals to show our expectations, what we'd like to see, and what the end product should be when everything is said and done. The work programs themselves were redesigned to ensure cleaning tasks themselves are done at the optimal time. So we adjusted the times so that the place smells great. We recognize that when you do a heavy-duty cleaning and sanitize, it smells fantastic. We generally did that on the overnight tour, but if you can do that just before our peak load periods where customers are hitting the stations, you can have that much more impact. So we adjusted the current schedules to allow for that to be done prior to customers going to the location. The ratio of supervisors to cleaners has also been updated, so we have enough coverage to ensure that the frontline staff have the support, the tools, and the guidance that they need to do their job well. New systems allow for us to better manage equipment and employee availability, and we've also added employee recognition programs so cleaners know their work is valued and provide other employees something to aspire to. Now, specifically in stations, we've added over 300 cleaners and supervisors. These additional resources allow us to reduce the number of stations that each cleaner is responsible for, as well as new tasks like keeping our reopened public restrooms clean. We've also added new tasks, such as specialized cleaning forces to increase the frequency of power washing of stations and hard-to-clean areas like overheads and canopies, as well as challenging surfaces like glass. Now, our cleaning standards guide details a step-by-step process to clean each station component and clear guidance on what constitutes clean. Cleaners were trained both in the classroom and in actual stations on these standards. We also set up a buddy system when folks came out of class so coworkers could share tips of the trade as well as individual idiosyncrasies of each station. We also replaced our legacy floor scrubber machines with over 80 new ones that are more efficient and eliminate downtime. And for that as well, we established new training for the machines on how to get the best use of them. The teams have been testing new equipment and including new degreasers, deodorizers. We've all heard of how important from our customers, how important the smell of a station is to their happiness. So we're targeting that. We've also formed HIT teams responsible for overhead canopies and hard-to-reach areas, dedicated scrub routines for 293 stations with floor tiles, and track tile teams for the 262 walls at 119 stations that we have to tackle. Now, there's been substantial progress on improving elevator cleanliness, not just inside the cab itself, but also the shaftway and exterior glass that encloses the 227 of our elevators. So if you imagine for a second, while the interior glass of an elevator may be cleaned by a station cleaner, that's just the inside. The outside panel, if that pane is dirty, is going to appear as if the glass itself is still dirty. That's just the cab. Then there's the enclosure itself. If that glass is dirty on the inside and the outside, it's still going to seem dirty. So when our team set out to find a way to clean not just the inside and outside, I can't even express how appreciative I am for the team's efforts and trying to determine what the new cleaner. If you look at this photo, is a good example of how much effort, how much work these teams did in to do this safely, to clean a elevator enclosure inside and outside safety. It's pretty much amazing. For our escalators, we're also experimenting on new tools like a step cleaning device in the video. I think it showed, but I will show it again if it plays. Okay, well that video shows, you can see it, you saw it? All right, great. It showed the broom itself kicking up the dirt. Again, this is a pilot, shows an example of what the team is trying to come up with. There we go, look at that. I didn't even have to use my hands to do that. Isn't that amazing? This is a pilot that started just by the teams themselves coming up with this. New ingenuitive ways of trying to clean our steps. And we all recognize that for most moving parts, if the parts themselves, the moving parts themselves are clean, it's more likely that we'll have breakdowns with those type of issues. So, for our subway cars, we've also added 600 positions to clean cars at the terminals between trips. That allows us to create a larger team so we can reliably clean every car, whether it's 8, 10, or 11 car consists. Now, prior to the pandemic, a train that was soiled would have to be, if it was soiled right after the terminal, it would have to make a full round trip in order to make it back to its original terminal in order to be taken care of. Now, in most instances, we have a team doing the mopping, sanitizing, cleaning of seats, graffiti at one end, like a heavy-duty cleaning at one end, and at the opposite end, we have someone that's taking care of the light stuff, a smaller team that handles scraps, debris, and spills. So we're making sure that just because a train is in service doesn't mean that we can't address some of the concerns that, some of the cleanliness issues with a car that's in service. Now, organizationally, we've also separated our cleaning from our maintenance shops. To be frank, our management team, who handles the inspection and maintenance of our vehicles, that's done at our overhaul and maintenance shops, making sure that trains are mechanically ready to hit the road, shouldn't necessarily be the same individuals who are prioritizing cleaning at the terminals. The focus is different. So separating the two ensures that there's a prioritization of both. And similar to stations, we've updated our standards and training to ensure that cleaners and supervisors have clearly defined responsibilities and expectations. Now, notice the key element is not just what should be done to physically keep a train car clean, but what preparatory work needs to be done by a supervisor to make sure that employees have what they need to get the job done properly, and what's expected in overseeing the work for a supervisor. Now at this time, I'd like to turn it over to David Solomon. David Solomon is the Vice President of Facilities, has done a fantastic job in revamping our renovation program, and turn it over to David to talk about some of the work that we've been doing in our employee facilities and in stations.
Thank you, Demetrius. So this is a very exciting time for us in the Division of Facilities. Through various key initiatives such as renovation and employee facility refreshes, it provides us with a great opportunity to have a holistic approach to how we are maintaining our facilities. The goal of the Division of Facilities is simple: to increase customer satisfaction for both our internal and external stakeholders. Here you can see the posters that we are putting up at our stations and at our employee facilities to letting folks know that we are coming, to get folks really excited to know that, hey, change is coming. So first, let's talk about what goes into a renovation. First, it's really improvements at the station level, talking painting, tile replacement, concrete repair work, washing and relamping, lighting enhancements, replacement of stairway treads, plus that real personalized touch at each station, whether it's the canopy repair work at Canarsie Rockaway or complete stairway overhaul work at Junction Boulevard that we did. Then it's the back of the house space that really benefits our employee, that refresh of their facility work. Mobile Wash comes in and does a real deep cleaning. E&E comes in and does that glass cleaning and that polishing work, plus some preventive maintenance work. HVAC comes in, they do a preventive maintenance work, and then there's a lot of the behind-the-scene work to that those critical comm rooms that you see. MOW comes in and does their signal work, track circuit work, conducts their relay tests, that infrastructure work that's behind the scenes but is also critical to our infrastructure. All this is done while really limiting that impact on the customer. Here we can see results of the renovation at Canal Street earlier in the year. You can see the before picture. You couldn't see even the sign from the station, the sign of the station from the street level. We went in, we upgraded the lights to LEDs, and now you can see it's a totally different environment, and it really leads to that new sense of safety and security for our customers. Over up in the Bronx at East 143rd Street, St. Mary's, our team went in and actually took out the entire section of wall tile and replaced it all together. At that one particular station, we replaced over 10,000 square feet of wall tile. Over here at DeKalb Avenue, you could see there we replaced the entire stairway. We replaced the wall tiles on each side. We replaced the stairway treads. We redid the safety painting. We replaced the new handrails. Over here, you can see at Fifth Avenue on the 7, we went in and, we really kind of looked at it holistically here. We saw where there's dark spots on the platform. We gave it a fresh coat of paint. We added additional lighting, and you kind of see here also how the light reflects off of the new paint. It really kind of gives it a new look on it altogether. Here at Broadway on the G, you can see that there was an active leak at the station, and we went in, we added a new French drain system to kind of capture the water as it's coming in to give it a new look altogether. And then 121st Street on the J, we're not just focusing on the platform or at the station level, but also things that are in the direct line of sight of the customer. We painted the right-of-way that had some graffiti on it to just look at the station in totality here. This slide here talks about renovation by the numbers. As you can see, since the inception of the program, really highlights the good work of the team here. Just to kind of put it in perspective, help you visualize the accomplishments. Since the start of the program, we've painted about 2.7 million square feet of surfaces. That's the same square feet as the Empire State Building. That's a lot. over 16,000 new light fixtures have been installed since. Next, I'd like to talk about improvements to our employee facilities. You know, this is a key initiative that's near and dear to our hearts. As Demetrius mentioned last month, there are over 4,000 employee facilities located throughout our system. You know, through the support and leadership of Rich and Demetrius and our partners in Local 100, we made tremendous improvements to how we enhance the day-to-day work environment of our colleagues. Here you can see a few pictures of the work in progress we made throughout the system, breaking down walls and building new ones and upgrading lighting. Here we can see a picture of a recently renovated track facility we just celebrated last week at Tremont. We replaced the floor and ceiling tiles, installed new heating systems, updated cooling systems, refreshed bathrooms, replaced all the lighting fixtures with new LED, scraped and painted the walls, and installed new furniture. Here we can see the picture of a refreshed service delivery facility we completed earlier in the year. The floor and ceiling tiles were replaced, the facility was painted. We also grouted the walls to stop water penetration. You know, it made such a huge difference to our team members and to the morale to come back to a well-kept facility. You know, here we see the improvements we made to the employee facilities. Since the start of the year, you know, we laid out an ambitious goal of refreshing 100 employee facilities. You know, the team stepped it up, and I'm happy to say that we've refreshed almost 90 facilities since the start of the year. You know, and with your continued support, we'll look forward to keeping up the pace and refreshing 100 more next year. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. I have a question before, Andrew. So, are we done? We're not done? Okay. All right, a little more. Go ahead. Sorry.
I will be quick. Thank you, David. I can tell you that I personally am very excited by the work that gets done during the renovation. And the customers themselves are noticing, as you could see, some of the comments from our customers after the stations have been renovated. My personal favorite is tied to the lighting, where we specifically changed the fluorescent bulbs, which are like a soft white, a yellowish tinge, to a cool white temperature, with the intent of making customers feel safer. And also that extra brightness shows the efforts that we're putting in to keep the station clean. I think one thing that can't go without being said is the intentionality of these renovations, specifically looking at every station and saying, what does this station need? What can we do there to make it better? I mean, David touched on some of the lighting aspects of, you know, this location, this specific spot in the station is dark. What lighting do I need to add in addition? It's not just about changing bulbs to do a little bit better than what we had, but it's about improving the station environment. And again, customers are noticing that. So, what's next? We believe we have the right recipe, though we're still tweaking some of the ingredients a bit. Based upon these successes, we plan to maintain the pace of 50 station renovations for next year, and also 100 employee facility rehabs per year. We're also continually researching new equipment, tools, new processes, and we're growing our quality assurance team to ensure that these improvements, the effort that we're putting in, we can consistently deliver upon our cleaning standards that have been established. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
So first, thank you both. And if I can just go back, Frank, Demetrius, and all the hardworking people of the MTA who kept the system running and then got it back to running on September 29th. Thank you. I know Demetrius was like just on New York One constantly assuring everybody that the system would get back and running, but thank you. So this is great work, love it. But I just have a question. So I love the work that you're doing in the stations, but what happens at the base of the stations, right? Some of the stations, as you guys know, that I frequent in the Bronx, people come, take their little scooters, drop their cup of coffee, run upstairs. So at the foot of the station, there's all, garbage and stuff. Do we work with the local sanitation guys, or it's just me calling 311 and telling them, or me calling the sanitation guys and saying, can we clean up around the stations. I don't know what we're responsible for as opposed to what the city is responsible for. Because, you see that and you're trying to go up and you're like climbing all this stuff to climb up to the station, so.
So you're absolutely right. It is not necessarily the MTA's area. We do clean a certain number of feet outside of the staircases themselves. If we find that a condition is extremely bad, we will do it ourselves and then report it to sanitation or DOT. But I think some of the efforts that we've been doing, for example, we'll use the example of Pelham Bay Park, where we've met with our city partners from sanitation, from DOT, to talk about, like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put our effort in. We're going to change the lights. We're going to have our folks do maintenance and painting in this area. We'll remove the debris here, but we need your partnership in order to make this work. So I think it has to be continually throughout the system. As the team goes from location to location, the key part of identifying the areas that need to be targeted, it goes beyond just our work, but also extends to our partners as well.
So do you tell DOT and sanitation that, next station up is this one, or no? We don't coordinate like that?
No, I think we've been distributing that list of locations through our partners as well.
Okay, so it's getting up to them
Yes.
to do the work. All right, thank you. Andrew had a question, and then Midori.
Yeah, thank you, David and Demetrius, for this presentation. At what point in the repairing, renovating, cleaning, is signage and maps checked for accuracy? Is that this team, or is that a completely different team?
Thank you. So we do check the signage and maps. I'm going to say, Andrew, you're one of the best out there. So I'm not going to take that away from you. You will still find something even after we've looked it over. But I think that's the reality of the beast. It's a big system. We walk the system. Folks will definitely do a cursory look to make sure that everything is as it should be. But every now and then we do miss one or two. But thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for the great presentation. Shows the kind of investment that you're making on the operating side, and I think and I really hope the employees value that, and I think they do. So thank you so much for that. On the cleaning, clearly you've made a huge investment in the number of cleaners, and I'm recollecting kind of in the days of COVID, there was a lot of talk about, oh, we're cleaning these trains like once every 24 hours or something like that. So do you have an estimate now of like how many times these trains get cleaned, over 24 hours, 48 hours a week? I just want to get a sense, given that amount of investment that you're making.
I could certainly get the actual details for you, but our intent was to be able to replace what the contractors had in place. So the goal of contractors was to sanitize every car, at least once a day. And, to my recollection, the addition of the cleaners not only sanitizes, but also provides a cleaning element that we were not getting with the contractors. So I can get you the details, though.
Okay, again, thank you all for the hard work, and thank you, David, for helping get this, everything going and everything clean. Any other questions? If not, we're going to move on to Q.
Good afternoon. October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and we are very proud of all that the MTA is doing to support employment of people with disabilities. That means making our transit network more accessible so New Yorkers can get to jobs around the city, either riding our fully accessible bus networks, our paratransit services, which, by the way, we do have the largest in the world with about 30,000 trips per day, our subway system, which continues to be more accessible every month, or e-hail, which we've made accessible to 3 times the number of participants from phase 1. And of course, deepening our collaboration with our own HR departments to ensure that MTA continues to be an employer of choice for prospective employees of all backgrounds. Earlier this year, we launched a new paid internship program through the Partnership for Inclusive Internships, or PI, program developed by AHRC, supported by the New York State Office of Adult Career Center and Continuing Education, or Vocational Rehabilitation Access VR, and the New York State Commission for the Blind. This PI program matches young people with disabilities with opportunities for paid work to help build careers. We have already had a successful first group of interns here through the PI program, working in transit and across the MTA, and we are working to expand that program as the school year continues. When it comes to accessibility of the network itself, we continue to make historic progress. Last month, elevators and other accessibility improvements were completed at Hoyt Street on the 2-3 downtown in Brooklyn, on East 149th Street, on the 6th train in the South Bronx, and at New Dorp Station on the Staten Island Railways. No longer the forgotten borough. The Hoyt Street project, which includes new entrance service to the southbound platform, was completely funded and will be maintained by Macy's as part of their building's redevelopment there on that site. Another example of the MTA engaging the private sector to improve accessibility in our systems without requiring any MTA capital dollars. Lastly, a reminder that the MTA's Advisory Committee for Transit Accessibility, or ACTA, has open positions and is accepting applications until November 20th. This advisory committee meets quarterly and is an important forum for accessibility advocates to be in direct conversation with the MTA and my team about progress towards a fully accessible transit system, what more needs to be done to achieve our goals, and to ensure that we're hitting our mark. Those interested in joining ACTA should look out on our websites for these announcements and see how they can apply and reach out to my team for more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Q. Any questions for Q? Midori.
Hi, thank you so much for the update. So 30,000 trips a day, that's a lot of trips that you and Chris and folks are managing. But today we heard a lot about phase 2 in our public comment period. And I want to ask one, how is the MTA and how is your office defining success for phase 2? Just putting into context some of the concerns and some of the complaints that we've gotten in this public session.
I'm going to let Chris chime in, but before I do so, I have to say a couple of things, Commissioner Valdivia. Phase 1 was an irresponsible pilot. You heard from the public speakers, there were no parameters to define success to this number of people. And for those others who don't know about that project, 1,200 customers were selected to be active participants in Phase 1. 1,200 people out of the 160,000 participants in our paratransit network. So we're talking about less than 1% of riders were selected to be part of that program. We have now rolled out phase 2 with 3 times the number of participants, and we've added other parameters like payment incentives, which, by the way, we are completely under FTA's parameters to do so. The FTA allows us to charge a doubling of the base fare for paratransit system. That's something that we've chosen never to do here in New York City Transit and are standing by that. And e-hail, as we've heard, is not a requirement. This is something that we're doing, working with our customers to see how we can better improve transit offerings to our customers. This phase 2 is looking to see how customers are choosing to ride around our systems. We have a very accessible bus system. We have a subway system that's continuing to be more accessible every month. You heard in my updates how that's changing. And paratransit, which in our efforts to increase the number of e-hail participations, we have been hearing from customers that what they want is not necessarily e-hail, is a more responsive paratransit system. And Chris and his team are working tirelessly to do that. We're trying to learn how customers make those decisions between riding the bus, riding a subway, and paratransit. E-hail was meant to be for that spontaneous trip. It was never meant to be an alternative to mass transit. We are in the business of mass transit. We move 30,000, 5 million people a day, and that is our business. We are not in the for-hire vehicle business. Chris, would you like to add anything?
Sure. Thank you, Q. And Midori, thank you for the question. Actually, we're up to 33,000 trips a day now, so it's even higher. So with e-hail phase 2, what we're looking to do is see with our customers how they're traveling on it. So one of our, a number of our success metrics include the utilization of phase 2 by our customers who were in phase 1, but also the new customers. So we're looking to see, are they using the maximum amount of their rides? Where are they going in the city? And based on where they're going, we can infer a trip purpose as well. And we can also look using a survey to ask the quality of the service for customers, including are there enough trips? Is the dollar amount enough? Are they able to get to where they need to go? And so we'll be doing that survey over the next, we haven't started yet, but we will be doing that before the next check-in on that. And so we'll be able to get a good gauge of the benefits of our customers and also understand, if a lot of, just for example, if a lot of our customers are pushing the limit of the amount that we have for the program, or if they're not traveling as far as they used to in phase one, or if our phase two customers, depending on how fast they're taking up the program, we can infer what needs to be done to adjust to make it work within our budgetary constraints.
Thank you. So I guess Q, agree to disagree on the use of the word irresponsible. But that being said, when it comes to thinking about phase two, I guess, and I think you both know this, we've had this discussion a few months ago. I'm just interested in learning more about these kind of two categories. You have high volume and high distance, I believe, and there are different caps for both. And so it feels like for the new folks who are on the program, in a way, there's almost like an arbitrary, because they have to choose, right? We don't choose for them. They choose which one. And
we choose.
Oh, the MTA chooses for a new customer which one, but how would you know which one would most benefit them? Wouldn't they know better based on their ridership trends or how they would be interested in using the pilot?
Yeah, so the reason why we have two different programs is we're trying to test two different approaches to eHail Phase 2 so we can learn. Well, like you said, one approach is the high volume, so it's more trips per month. The other one is long distance, so it's a higher dollar amount per month. And we're randomly placing a random set of customers into each program. That way we'll have a representative population in both programs and can accurately evaluate the cost and benefits based on that population in both programs. So the reason why phase one customers we were able to adjust because they we grandfathered them in. We want to make sure they have the right program they're in. In phase two, they haven't had the benefit before of eHail. So either one of these is going to be a benefit, and we want to evaluate which one is performing better, if you will, by the metrics I mentioned earlier. And we'll be able to say whether it's a high volume or a high frequency, or high distance, or if there are attributes of both, maybe perhaps that we can combine in the future. Again, all of this is on the table to see what we want to learn.
Okay, and Q, I appreciate this notion of eHail as kind of complementary to the other services that MTA provides in the paratransit umbrella of sorts. We also heard about the discussion around the taxi voucher kind of authorization program, and I was on the other side of that when I was at the Taxi and Limousine Commission. I guess I just want to dig in a little bit more on to what extent or to what extent do we expect mode shift? Because we are hearing that people either feel forced or feel like it's more advantageous to do the mode shift. And I just want to learn about that a little bit more. But I really appreciate both of you and all your work on this. So thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Q. We're going to move on to our safety report. Welcome, Chief.
Good afternoon. Before I start, Demetrius, you got my attention before. He said he created and established hit teams. I'm glad it's all about cleanliness, though. Good morning, Chair Mihaltis, President Davey, members of the board. Thank you for having me here today. You have before you the crime figures for the month of September, which shows the subway system experienced 175 index crimes for the month, which translates to a 12.5% reduction from last September, or 25 less index crimes. This reduction was driven mainly by a decrease in robberies and grand larcenies, 29.6% and 13.2% respectively. The September decline is in line with our year-to-date major crime picture. For the first 9 months of the year, January 1st through September 30th, overall major index crime in the subway system was down 5% versus 2022. This 5% reduction translates to 86 less crimes versus last year. Most notably, robberies are down year-to-date 12.7%, or 57 less robberies. Additionally, it should be known or noted that shooting incidents in the subway system are down 62.5% this year, with 3 recorded this year, versus 8 recorded last year for the same 9-month period. As I've repeatedly stated at this committee meeting and elsewhere, repeatedly, that although we are encouraged by these decreases, we certainly realize that we still have a lot of work to do. We recognize this, and we are committed. As I've noted in prior committee meetings, the NYPD Transit Bureau's engagement of individuals who participate in lawless behavior within the subway system has played and continues to play a key role in our overall crime reduction strategy. To that, enforcement efforts to address fare evasion, quality of life offenses, unsafe riding, disorderly behavior, and weapons possession, just to name a few, were up across the board in September, and is true for year-to-date also. These offenses weigh heavily on a rider's mind in relation to overall safety. Arrests are up year-to-date 57.4%. Tab summonses are up year-to-date 55%, including a 52% increase in fare evasion tab summonses, and illegal weapons possession arrests are up as well. This important work will continue. If I may, I'd like to take a moment to discuss the assault of a 30-year-old woman that occurred last Wednesday at the 53rd Street station in Manhattan. To say this assault was shocking and heinous is an understatement. To that, due to good Samaritan witnesses, video surveillance in the subway system, and good detective work, a perpetrator's identity was obtained within hours, and he was in police custody the very next day. To this young woman and her family, my prayers and well wishes are with you on your road to recovery, with all sincerity. Since we last saw each other in this boardroom, events in the Middle East have reverberated all the way back to New York City. In recent weeks, we've seen marches, gatherings, spirited debates, and clashes unfold right here at home. Just over a week ago, I stood along Chair Lieber and Chief Muller inside Grand Station Terminal to remind our riders that there is no specific, credible threat to this city or to our subway system. That remains the case today as I speak before you. As always, we remind New Yorkers and we remind our riders to always remain aware of your surroundings and remain vigilant. And if you see something, to say something. This concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And thank you for mentioning that horrible, horrible incident that happened last week. I was talking to President Davies this morning how our thoughts and prayers are with the young woman, and hopefully God will grant her on the right path. Any questions that we have for the Chief? David.
Not the Chief, actually. We can go on.
Okay.
It was getting back to something I had talked to Mr. Davey about in terms of barriers to be put on, the experiment with barriers. Critical stations.
Sure. So I think, this committee knows, the board knows, the idea of platform screen doors, predated my arrival here 18 months ago. C&D is putting out an RFP to do that for 3 stations. Of course, that construction and award will take some time. Of course, it's also, I think, contingent upon congestion pricing, right? There's a lot of our capital program that requires that to be, to come to fruition. That said, we have piloted at a few locations barriers, literally sort of fencing within the middle of platforms. So if someone feels concerned, there's a barrier there that they could look at. We're looking at a couple of other, potentially some short term as well. In this instance, candidly unclear if a barrier would have helped. That's unclear. But we are, leaving no stone unturned when it comes to track intrusion and these other issues. So, again, as the chief said, it's just, your heart breaks for this instance, and thanks to the chief's team, they were able to get that perpetrator in custody within 24 hours. So that mayhem wasn't going to continue.
Neil.
Thank you for letting me barge into this meeting. I've been this board.
You're always welcome, Neil.
Thank you.
No
I've been this
barge.
board over 9 years. I've actually never come to the Transit Committee meeting. It's the only committee I've never been on. So,
Welcome.
It seems like a lovely committee. I may get a little emotional what I'm saying, Chief. What I'm about to say is not directed at you. It's just a general statement. So there was another incident that happened the previous weekend that was reported about a victim punched in the face in the 7 train corridor at Grand Central. and this person was punched in the face, and when, I don't know if it was a man or a woman, but when they inquired as to why they were punched, the answer was, you were Jewish. Now, we could say it's mental illness, probably is. There's a lot of that goes around when the economy is down, and you spend an enormous amount of time trying to solve this problem. But it's probably mental illness, but maybe not entirely. There's another cancer out there, a persistent cancer called anti-Semitism. We thought it was done after the Holocaust, but it's not. It's dormant, and it's come back. There's been a number of people talking about how what's happened in the Middle East is a second beginning of another Holocaust. Now, you can debate whether that term is appropriate even to use with a number in front of it, but I can tell you that anti-Semitism is here. It is persistent. It is back with a vengeance, and it is happening in protests. It's happening in texts. It's happening in words, and certainly in deeds that we see in our own little part of the world, but it is not only here. Now, I need to know that my home is safe, that those leaders we have my back. And I can't tell you how incredibly proud I was of Governor Hochul or Mayor Adams for going to Israel soon after this crisis. They flew into a war zone, ladies and gentlemen. They flew into a war zone. That wasn't just going and flying and doing a presso that they do someplace. They actually flew into Israel soon after this happened in Israel. And I thank them because I believe they have my back. Now, what's interesting is Joe Biden also obviously flew over there, and Joe Biden likes to tell this story these days. And if you heard this story, he tells about him meeting Golda Meir. He met Golda Meir a few weeks before the Yom Kippur War in '73, and he said to her, I mean, this is apocryphal. I assume it's true. He said, "I'm worried about Israel." He said, and she goes, "Well, don't be worried." Well, he said, "Well, why shouldn't I be worried about Israel?" And she said, "Well, we have as the chief seems to know it, we have a secret weapon." And he asked, what's your secret weapon? And the prime minister said, "We have no place else to go." And that's kind of funny, kind of has an Ed Koch ring to it of his kind of humor. But I will tell you, I have someplace else to go. I will tell you that New York City is my Jerusalem, and I will tell you this state is my Israel. And I have been here 4 generations. I'll be damned if I let anti-Semitism push me from my Israel and my Jerusalem. So you keep protecting us. You keep making sure that when we see that threat is addressed and attacked, because this is my home. All right, so thank you for that, Chief. Thank you for the diligence you guys are doing, but you need to be alert to it. We all need to be alert to it.
Andrew, before that, I just wanted to make a comment because what Neil said. So, Chief, we know the person who pushed the young woman had a history of mental illness, and we don't know what happened with this incident that Neil spoke about. But it reminded me, what are we doing as far as treating the mentally ill that are in our system? Have we made more progress? I hope. If you could just update us.
Neil, is that correct?
Yes.
I'm familiar with that incident. Unfortunately, that occurred last Saturday evening, Grand Central. Just to give you an update on that. Well, first of all, let me say this. There is zero tolerance in New York City for any sort of hate crimes or bias crimes. Matter of fact, New York City, the NYPD has its own dedicated hate crimes unit, which is fully staffed by detectives whose sole mission is to investigate any sort of bias-related or hate crime that occurs. The incident that was highlighted that you spoke of, the hate crimes unit has that. There's been, fortunately, her injuries were not severe. That case, they have identified a perpetrator. And as I'm sitting here right now, I'm confident that in the very near future, I've said this before, in the very near future there will be an arrest. Our warrant squad is currently looking for that individual. Just in relation to, Chair, your question about mental health. So the NYPD, every day, we're working in close partnership with other city agency partners, as part of many different initiatives We have a subway safety task, and a lot of this was born from the subway safety plan back in February of 2022. We have our own subway safety task force, which is staffed by NYPD Transit Bureau police officers and supervisors. We have an end-of-line operations. We have, we go out with clinicians, whether DHS, DOHMH, BRC, and this is a 7-day-a-week, round-the-clock process, these initiatives. And, we've had, I'll go back to, a 12-month period. I have some data in front of me, Chair. I wasn't expecting this question, but, over just the initiative people, or just the initiatives, over 71,000 contacts with individuals in the subway system in the last 12 months. Just under or over, if you want to say, 19,000 have accepted shelter, whether that's temporary or permanent, but over 19,000 actually accepted at the time of offer through these initiatives. As far as taken to the hospital, north of 750 individuals are taken to the hospital. Now, that's for medical and psych reasons, or any other reason that would necessitate a trip to the hospital. But, when focusing solely on mental health, just this initiative, this partnership with our other city agencies, whether it's 958 or 941 removals, just about 90 individuals were taken for mental health reasons. So I think, Chair, what I'm trying to say is there are initiatives that have been active, that are active, and will continue.
I appreciate that, Chief, and I was just thinking of it. That's why I didn't want you to think that I sprung this question on you.
Fair
But
question.
I appreciate all the great work that that the NYPD has done and continues to do to keep our system safe. And thank you again. Andrew?
Yeah, thanks for coming, Chief, and for all the great work you and your folks are doing. The lady who was attacked at Lexington and 53rd, it was very clear that the perpetrator jumped the turnstile. We have video of that. Most of the folks attacking people are not paying their fare. That's pretty clear. Not everybody who beats the fare is about to attack people, but those that do, it's pretty clear, have not paid their fare. So I'm wondering where we are with the extension of the turnstile arms to prevent backcocking, with the 30-second delay on the slam gates to prevent people flowing in that way. I'm just wondering where we are with these methods so we can secure our system for our riding public.
Sure. So we maybe give a more fulsome update at maybe the next committee meeting, Andrew. But suffice to say that Demetrius and team have moved forward with the anti-backcocking initiative, I should say. Dee, how many stations have we done? We're not going to name them, but do you know off the top of your head, or how many? It was a couple hundred turnstiles the last I checked. That was about a week ago, but they continue to make progress. So we'll get the exact details for you, but that continues. I think some of the designs that were contemplated during the Blue Ribbon Commission, the fins, the tubes, for example, we're very close to having a final design, but we're working with our partners in C&D. We actually just met last week to look at where we are. The gate delay, will require, I think, a variance from fire department, so that's being worked on as well. And we're looking at a few other, opportunities. We continue to deploy the unarmed guards. I think they're at almost 40 stations now, and that has been successful when it comes to fare evasion. There are also another set of eyes and ears, for the chief and his team. If they see something, they're reaching out to NYPD as well. So we have a lot in flight to address the, the fare evasion question on subways, for sure. And as you know, we continue to install or update our cameras on subway cars. That is, underway as well. So I've, often made the joke, but it is true. We have more cameras in a, Las Vegas casino in New York City Transit. We do. If you do something, we're getting that photo of that gentleman down there. He's giving it to his officers and detectives, and they're locking people up. They just are. So, I mean, arrests are up. I won't repeat the chief's impressive statistics, but, I think our impressive camera system is allowing us to grab, these perpetrators.
On that point, and Chief or Rich, the information we get from our cameras is that if this perpetrator, in fact, was caught at Newark Penn Station. So we are sharing our video with other police forces and other transit systems, I assume?
So I'll speak about this case. We were extremely transparent from the first, literally minutes after this when we realized that the individual responsible was captured on video. Images were created and they were disseminated, yes. We released it to the media. So, we weren't shy, and truth be told, how this came together was somebody that watched the news report in New Jersey and said, hey, that looks like the guy, and notified the Newark Police Department who confirmed that. So we're extremely transparent with the video, and we certainly share it.
Again, thank you, Chief. Anything else for the Chief? If not, thank you, and we look forward to seeing you again next month. We're going to move on to Lou.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. The New York City Transit procurement package includes one item this month. This item is the award of a purchase contract to Prevost Car Inc. U.S. for the purchase of 250 over-the-road diesel express buses with an option for an additional 131 buses for a total of 381 buses. This also includes spare parts, special tools and equipment, and technical documentation and training. These buses will replace existing aging buses operating out of MTA bus company depots in the Bronx and Queens that have reached the end of their 12-year useful life. At this time, Prevost is the authority's only qualified source for over-the-road diesel buses. Additionally, in November 2022, a sole source notification was publicly advertised for this procurement, to which no other firm responded, indicating that it could provide the requirements as advertised. Delivery of the base buses is anticipated to begin in April 2025 and be completed by August 2026. If exercised based on funding availability, the option buses will be delivered between August 2026 and March 2027. The option to purchase additional buses must be exercised on or before December 31st, 2025. The final estimated amount for this award is $214 million for the base buses and an additional $111.7 million for the options, resulting in a total of $325.8 million. I submit this procurement for board approval.
And Lou, you don't think anyone else responded because, like Rich said before, there's not many bus companies out there, never mind diesel bus companies that...
I'm sorry, we know specifically who the manufacturers of this type of over-the-road buses are, and the two companies that comply, it's this company, Prevost, and the other is MCI. MCI is discontinuing a model that we've bought for many, many years. They're developing a new structure which will test to qualify, but at this time they could not compete in this. Now, we're also working with other companies for the future to identify other manufacturers, so we always have a base of competition.
Great.
But this is a need for which there's only one manufacturer at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Lou? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the procurement. Frankie, second. Lisa, all those in favor? Aye, against? Motion carried. Procurement is done. Now I need a motion to adjourn. Motion. Second? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone.